Hey everyone, Fina here from Fina Reads. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. And as you can see, I'm not alone. Yay, I have a guest again. And I let Casey, my guest, introduce herself. Let's start off with that.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited. I'm KC Grifant. I'm a writer, editor, some other things too, game designer, etc. I'm based in San Diego. I am mostly a horror author. I also do fantasy. Weird West is a big one for me, and some sci-fi as well. Um, Other things, I started the horror writers chapter here in San Diego about 10 years ago, which has been awesome. And I also teach writing through UCSD and some workshops that I do fairly regularly. So a little bit of everything.
So then my favorite questions when I hear long lists like this. When do you sleep?
Oh, I also work a full-time job and I have two small kids. So time is always an issue. I am always feeling frazzled, overwhelmed. I'm like, I never have enough time, but I just remind myself, like, I enjoy this hustle. Like, I'm going to look back on this time and miss it probably right when I'm retired. And it's not like running around like crazy. But, it is tough. And of course, I wish I had more writing time. But you find ways around it, whatever your situation is. You got to prioritize the writing and then get the other projects in wherever you can.
Yeah, I really appreciate that you squeezed us in your busy schedule. Because I'm really excited to talk with you about. So, writer, let's start with that topic. You are about to release a new anthology called Women of the Weird West, right? Tell us a little bit about that anthology. What is it about? Yeah.
Yes, super excited. Well, let me first say that the Weird West is a subgenre that takes Old West elements or aesthetics, right? The Old West, cowboys, that sort of thing, and merges it with speculative fiction. So that could be horror, sci fi, or fantasy. So, Cowboys and Aliens is an example, right? There's a lot of examples out there, but it's kind of this like niche subgenre that I was really drawn to a few years ago. I wrote some books that we'll talk about. But for this anthology in particular, I was tired of not seeing enough women in Westerns and weird Westerns. And when you did see women characters, they were usually like the typical, like, farmer's daughter or
Mm-hmm.
with a heart of gold. Like maybe you would get a gunslinger once in a while. So I've always wanted to see more diverse women characters in old westerns and especially weird westerns. So I had this idea to do an anthology where I could collect stories from awesome authors out there that feature women characters in Weird West settings and that were written
Mm-hmm.
by women or non-binary authors, because so much of Western writing is, kind of the straight white male
Mm-hmm.
mentality. And we've moved away from that, but I really wanted to showcase women in particular in that Weird West setting. So I pitched the idea to my publisher, Bridge Escape Press, and they loved it. And they kind of gave me the go ahead to do it. And it's coming to fruition. It comes out June 16th, available wherever you buy books, and it features just amazing authors, uh,
Mm-hmm.
established some new authors, and the stories and poems range from horror to kind of sci-fi to fantasy.
Yeah.
They probably skew a little more horror because that's my favorite, but it is
Yeah.
a mix.
Yeah. I started reading it too because thanks for that, by the way, too. You sent me an ARC copy of it and I started reading some of the stories. And I agree with the mix. It leans a little bit towards the darker side though,
Mm.
right? I mean horror, of course, but even within the horror, it leans a bit like there are some dark themes in there in some of the stories.
Yes, for sure. And I would say like rated R is probably the most
Yeah.
extreme. Like it's not, there's a lot of extreme horror western out there, and this is not that.
Yeah.
This is, but it is like there are some horror stories for sure.
Yeah. What I also realized when reading it, it's not just that it is written by women and non-binary authors, but also the themes themselves are rather diverse. Like the story that I just read last night was Aztec inspired.
Mm.
Like had I'm always horrible with pronouncing names properly, so I'm not even attempting it right now. But it had like Aztec, the Aztec death
Mhm.
goddess there that was coming out of the fountain to help
Yes.
the folks and whatnot. So was that something that you also, on top of everything, looked at too? That it's not just, typical,
Oh yeah.
white men West setting written by women, but also diverse from other aspects?
Absolutely, and that's where you're referencing is by V. Castro, and it's an awesome story. Yes, so when I began to put together the anthology, what I first did is created a list of authors I wanted to invite, I wanted to reach out to, and I wanted to make sure that list was diverse in terms of the authors' backgrounds, like from all levels, right?
Yeah.
Like their background in terms of how long they've been writing, their racial background, religious background, LGBTQ plus, like
Hmm.
all these kind of identity factors because I wanted to see just more interesting weird Western stories than we've seen.
Yeah.
I think culturally too, there's a lot of untold stories in Westerns and in Weird Westerns, right? From
Yeah.
indigenous authors, from authors who are Hispanic, right? Like kind of Asian authors, right? Asian American authors. Like there's a huge history of the Old West tied to
Yeah.
Asian immigration that I think more people are aware of now, but those stories had not really been told. So for me, I really wanted to see like, okay, which authors, one, had maybe indicated some interest in Western or historical fiction and whose
Hmm.
writing I liked. So that's how I
Yeah.
kind of narrowed down that initial list. Um, reached out to those folks. And then after I got those stories, I did an open call. Um, and I was surprised at how many people submitted stories, and the stories were amazing. Like there were so many more I couldn't take that I wish I could have. It
Yeah.
was really inspiring.
How many stories did you get? Like rough number?
Gosh, I think it was close to 200,
Oh, wow.
which, you know, for open calls, often the numbers are pretty high, but because this was so specialized, right? Weird Western,
Yeah.
women focus, I thought maybe I'd get 50. So to get 200,
That is
I'm
incredible.
the only like reader for it, right? So it took me a long time to go through them. And I just like it's so true. There were so many great stories. Like I probably had about 40 on my short list
Hmm.
that I really wanted to publish, and I could only take a handful.
Yeah.
So that was actually really tough. And I think that's sadly one of the hardest things about being an
Yeah.
editor is that you have to make some tough calls at the end. And it really comes down to not story quality, but is this story too similar to one I have already? Like, does it have a
Yeah.
certain type of monster or vibe? Right. So it comes down to these really nuanced decisions.
Hmm.
Gosh.
So that was kind of part of your decision process then, right? Looking at, okay, how many have whatever Aztec inspiration, how many have Kelpies, because there's also a story with Kelpies in there, which I was like, that was so cool. But like, so that was part of your decision process. What other things were you looking at for your decision making process?
Yeah. For that, gosh, for the
I'm
short list,
asking the hard questions here.
no, for the short list, it was really tough. Well, honestly, word count actually, because you want in an anthology, there's a whole art form to it, but you want a variety of word counts, right? You don't want
Hmm.
all the stories to be 5,000 words. You want some that are 2,000 or 1,000. So word count was a factor as well. I accepted a few drabbles, which is exactly 100 words, which is so hard to write. So I'm very impressed when people can do that well.
Hmm.
And then the poetry, I was actually really enjoyed the Weird West poetry. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. And actually, I've seen some early reviews where people are like, oh, I don't know if I like poetry in an anthology, but it's there. You can skip it if you don't like it. But I
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
I mean, that's the theme for any anthology, really, right? If you include poems or not, they're typically, especially if you include like such a diverse group of authors, there will be stories that don't resonate with everyone. I think that's a challenge with pretty much any anthology, I would
Mhm.
assume.
Yeah, absolutely. And collections too, right?
Yeah.
Like I have a short story collection out. I have another one coming out next year. And, I don't, nobody ever likes all the stories except your super fans. But that's fine. Like it's a little buffet, right? If you don't
Yeah.
like it, skip it, go to the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. That absolutely makes sense. So, this was the first anthology that you edited by yourself.
Correct. Yes.
right?
I've been a co-editor for other ones. So last year I had an anthology come out called Dread Coast.
Mm-hmm.
I co-edited with Dennis K. Crosby, who is part of the San Diego Horror Writers Association here. And we did a charity anthology featuring SoCal authors that were writing horror stories that
Mm-hmm.
take place in SoCal. So that was super fun. And then I have another anthology I'm co-editing that's also Western horror of Terror and Tombstones. And I'm co-editing that with Jendia Gammon. That comes out next year from Stars and Sabers Press.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because each anthology is a different experience too. Like when you co-edit, right, it's really great because you have a partner to bounce ideas off of.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there's always a compromise, right? You might like a story, they don't like, vice versa. So
Yeah.
it's very collaborative. And when you are the sole editor, as I am for Women of the Weird West, it's all on me for better or worse, right? So it's like it's a little more pressure because you have more control.
Yeah.
Um, but it's been a great experience. The writers have been amazing, and I'm excited to get it out there and see how people receive it.
Yeah. So how is the editing different when you edit a short or anthology in that sense, where you edit all those different styles and then poems versus, shorter stories, et cetera, versus your own books or an anthology that has short stories from the same author? Like,
Mhm.
how is this different for you as an editor?
Yeah, it's it's challenging in its own way, but also fun, right? Because you have different authors with different styles.
Mm-hmm.
So on one hand, you want to make sure certain things are consistent, right? Like dashes or line breaks. I mean, that's easy. You just make that consistent across all stories. But it really comes down to understanding each writer's voice. And
Mm-hmm.
any good editor, regardless of what they're editing, they are trying to polish that voice, not change it, right?
Yeah.
So there, for all the anthologies I edit, right, I'm reading it to see where it could be stronger stories, and then giving that feedback that authors are free to incorporate or not, right? I will say for an open call, it's a little different because stories need to be pretty polished, right? I'm
Yeah.
not going to do deep edits on all of them. So that's a little different than invited authors, where I may work a little more closely with them and
Got it.
go
That's
back and forth a
interesting.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is interesting. But in general, it really is about, making sure the work is clear. What I run into sometimes is an author has an amazing story that they submitted, and maybe the ending, like that last line, just needs to be tweaked a little bit, or maybe there's one, scene that's a little unclear. So
Mm-hmm.
it's my job to help them get it as, crystal clear and impactful as possible. And the poetry you mentioned is interesting too, because poetry is very different, right? So that
Yeah.
that you go in with a very light touch as an editor.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. And how long does this take you for something like this? I remember seeing the open call a while back on your social media, but how long is this anthology in the making at this point?
Oh, it's been a while, actually. It's been maybe like a year and a half. The open call was back in April of last year, if I'm remembering
Mm-hmm.
right. So it's been a year.
It's a year. I just want to say we're in May now. Jesus.
Yeah, which is great. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's amazing to think about that, because there was the whole piece before it, which was
Yeah.
inviting authors, getting their stories, working with them on their stories. So that was almost, 6+ months before the open call. Then once I had all those stories ready, then it's the open call, right? And because I got so many submissions, it took me, I want to say, up through December or later. Like it took me a while, and I'm a fast reader, but
Yeah.
it takes a while. So yeah, the anthology has been in the making for maybe close to 2 years now, which is not that long in terms of publishing, but it feels long.
Yeah, no, that is a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So, and then the rest of the stories, the ones that you couldn't publish this time, is there then a volume two eventually?
I hope so. So a few I was able to get into that other anthology I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned of Terror and Tombstones. So that's great. Like they were good fits for that. And then, you know, if I'm able to do a future one, I would love for those authors to submit again, or to find a home elsewhere for those
Yeah.
stories. They were really great. And one thing I want to mention too is I heard feedback that for a lot of the authors, it was their first time writing a weird Western. And to me, that was so great to hear because they all did such a great job, right?
Yeah.
And I've kind of been on this mission to bring the Weird West back. It's
Yeah.
always been a very like small subgenre, but I think there's a lot there to explore, especially from diverse perspectives. Especially now with our political climate, it's especially interesting to examine kind of this mythos around the Old West and our identity as a country, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just think there's so much there. There's so many untold stories, like actual historic stories of women and, you know, people of all different backgrounds who influenced that time period,
Yeah.
right? So I think there's so much there to explore. I also have a website I created a few years ago called Weird West Fiction,
Mm-hmm.
and I highlight diverse authors and stories there, which has been really fun.
That is amazing. Yeah, Weird West is a theme for you in general, right? You mentioned that a
Mhm.
little bit already, but it's so you have the anthology now. You also speak a lot about the topic at Comic Con or other events that are in San Diego in particular, where you just talk about Weird West and why it's important, right?
Yeah,
That is
for
amazing.
it's super fun, and I feel like people are pretty enthusiastic about it, especially like understanding that there's new types of stories out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Another thing I've been working on is Weird West games. So I have a Monster Gunslingers card game coming out
Mm-hmm.
next month if all goes well. And then I have another Western themed game that I haven't announced the details yet, but that'll be coming out soon. Um, so I don't know. It's fun for me. It's a fun subgenre. And when I do these panels and talks, I see a lot of enthusiasm, which is really nice.
That is good. So talking about Weird West, since we are on that topic, so you also wrote a book yourself, right? Well, two
Yes,
at this
my
point.
first book. Yes.
Yes. So that is not an anthology, but like a full blown novel. Melinda West Monster Gunslinger. So I'm holding up book one, but you already published book two as well. Not too long ago, right? Beginning of the
Right.
year?
Book two came out last year.
Oh, yeah.
And then the first book came out 3 years ago now. And I'm working on book three. And
Ooh.
also, I have short stories in that world. And it's so funny how it came to be because, as much as I love weird Westerns now, I did not like Westerns like before, which is like almost sacrilegious to say. Everybody I know who likes weird Westerns loved Westerns growing up, but I'll explain out. So, you know, I'd see Westerns on TV and I had
Yeah.
no interest because they were very like macho, right? I
Yeah.
didn't really see women characters, so no interest whatsoever.
I
Um,
hear you on that one, by the way.
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm
And I mean, there's a few, but really not so
hmm.
much.
Mm hmm.
When I moved to San Diego about 10 years ago from Boston, I became involved with a gaming group and we played a game called Doomtown,
Mm
which
hmm.
is set in the Deadlands universe, which some people may recognize. But what really captivated me about the game is that the card art featured a lot of women characters that in roles I hadn't seen before.
Mm
So
hmm.
there were women lawmakers and sheriffs and gunslingers and villains, right? So that sort of clicked in my head like, oh, this could be an interesting genre where women are like at the forefront. So anyway, I played the game competitively and I was invited to write some of the official game stories for it. And I enjoyed that so much that I created my own Weird West world.
Yeah.
That is the world that Melinda West is based in. And I wrote short stories, submitted those, and got really good like feedback. People seemed to enjoy them. So I thought, well, let me try a novel with these characters.
Yeah.
The characters kind of came to me fully formed. Melinda West, she is kind of the stoic cowboy figure, but gender swapped, right? So
Yeah.
She doesn't like to talk too much. She just gets the job done, right? She's a good shooter, right? So kind of all these attributes you associate with the
While
stoic.
you're saying this, I want to just hold up the cover for people so they understand what she is saying matches the cover too. Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No,
please continue. But I think it helps to visualize it really
totally.
well.
So she's very stoic, right? And then she has a partner, her boyfriend, Lance, who is more charismatic, like he's the smooth talker. So they just like kind of came to me fully formed, had a really fun dynamic. And for the short stories, they were always fighting a monster of the week, right? So
Yeah.
they're kind of like Ghostbusters. They go, or X-Files. They go around, they help towns solve their problems. And the premise of the world is that basically a crack in the earth released a lot of monsters. So that kind of interrupted history as we know it. And, there are all these monsters roaming the Old West that people have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much alt history. I don't really use like actual historic events or locations. It's really kind of my own fantasy world layered over our notion of the Old West.
Mm-hmm.
So in that first book, they are trying to retire from their like gunslinging ways, and they accidentally release a demon who steals their friend's soul. So they have to go on a desperate mission.
Yay.
And I know, right? So it's very much, I describe it as kind of like Buffy supernatural in the sense that it's like high stakes, right? The fast action, but it's not like super graphic
Yeah.
horror, which is not my thing, right? It's more like, okay, fighting monsters and you got to save the day.
Yeah.
Um, so that one came out. It hit number one on Amazon for bestsellers for Western horror, which was exciting.
Nice.
Other awards, yeah.
Yeah.
And then book two came out last year, and for that, they're dealing with this kind of new type of creature they've never seen before. The gremlins that have like these like abilities, and they're super intelligent. And they start to take over the land. So that was book two, which was also super fun. And I love introducing like interesting side characters too, which ended up making it into my game, the card game, where
Yeah.
there's original card art by this brilliant artist named Jenny Chin. And a lot of the side characters from both books are on those cards.
Awesome. So if that's a monster of the week type storytelling, is it, or let me ask it first, is it a monster of the week type storytelling for your actual novels as well? Or should they be read in order and there is like an overarching plot that goes across both books?
Yeah, that's so they are. I meant to write them standalone. But that said, I think that there is a story arc. So I definitely recommend starting with book one. And then book two ends in a way where book three needs to continue from it, which was not intentional, but like that's just how the story came out. So all that to say, book one can be read as a standalone. There's no cliffhanger ending, but kind of starting with book two, you sort of will need to
Gotcha.
go sequentially. But yes, the format was always Monster of the Week, which I love that format actually.
Mm-hmm.
But it's good. It was good for short stories, and then for the novels, obviously they have bigger monsters to deal with, but also their reoccurring themes that they have to deal with, like found family and
Mm.
other themes in there.
That is awesome. So do you have a plan already on how long you want the series to be or how many books you want to write in this world? Or are you like, nah, we'll see till I run out of ideas?
Yes, we'll see. Is and I wanted to do that because I didn't want to be stuck like writing a trilogy if I didn't
Mm-hmm.
feel like it.
Yeah.
I also didn't want to limit. So, book three is, I've had that idea for a long time. I really want to like start writing pirates. So I'm going to incorporate some pirates into the
There
story.
is a theme in SoCal right now. I had an interview with Teresa Halverson the other day, and she also said something about pirates. Is there something going on in SoCal? Is there something in the water with the pirates?
Pirates are just awesome. I mean, why wouldn't you want to write about pirates?
Fair, very fair. Yes.
Yes, but that's my plan. I actually have, gosh, this project's a way out, but I do have a pirate series that I've started to write, but that's going to have to wait a bit.
Yeah. All fair, fair. All right. And then for the short stories that you mentioned that you wrote in the Melinda West world, is there like a place if people like the world where they can find the short stories, or are they like dispersed in different magazines and
Right now, they're pretty dispersed. I am. planning to pull them into a collection at some point. I just have a few more I need to write.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're right now they're a little bit all over the place. In various magazines and anthologies. And I have one that'll be coming out in Cat Eye Press, their new anthology. It's Bank Vault Horror is the theme, and I'm writing a
That
Melinda.
theme sometimes, that is awesome.
Yeah, super fun. So yes, probably maybe in a year or two, I will have that collection ready.
Awesome. Great. So, and then we are not finished yet. You also have an anthologies with your own stories called Shrouded Horrors,
That's right.
which I read that as well a while ago. And I thought about it as everyday stories that all of a sudden twisted into something with monsters.
That's a really good way to describe it, actually. That's I like that. I'm gonna have to use that.
You're welcome.
That's perfect.
But
Yes.
how would you describe it? Like, tell us about Shrouded Horrors.
I usually describe it as being inspired by kind of Goosebumps, Tales from the Crypt, Creep Show, Twilight Zone,
Yeah.
where, it's that twisty kind of horror where usually something is subverted, some expectation, or there's a twist ending, but it's like a good twist ending.
Yeah.
So that's what I strive for. It's not always easy to do, but that's always my goal with short stories. Like, I want it to be really impactful. Like, so many of the Twilight Zone episodes, for example, right? You watch it and it stays with you because something shocking happens, and usually it's a reversal, right? Or a
Yeah.
surprise of some kind.
Yeah.
So I usually try to go for that in my short story. Not all of them, but some of them. So that's kind of the vibe, like supernatural, monstery horror. Again, nothing like extremely graphic.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I have another collection coming out next year, which is, I would say has more maybe like feminist horror and dark fantasy, and I'm really excited for that one to
Mm.
come out.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask because everything we've talked so far was very horror focused. So I wanted to ask, is that your genre? But clearly it's not.
I would say it's funny because for the longest time I did not identify as a horror author.
Hmm.
I thought of myself more dark fantasy sci-fi because I love sci-fi. And it wasn't until I moved to San Diego and I started connecting with the local writing community and co-founded the horror writers chapter and
Hmm.
realized, oh, I am a horror writer because horror means so many different
Yeah.
things, right? It's not just slashers, it's not just blood and guts, so those are fine as well, but it is a lot more than that.
Yeah.
And it's such a diverse diverse genre that offers so much to readers
Yeah.
that it's been really exciting to embrace that. And I feel like once I did, I really hit my stride in terms of writing and publishing and finding my community. That said, I think a lot of people would call me a Weird West author, though I would say I'm more under the umbrella of horror.
Yeah.
And from there, Weird West, sci-fi horror, dark fantasy, those
Yeah.
are really the genres I love.
Awesome. So, and then what do you love writing more, novels or anthologies?
Ooh, I really love I love short stories. But I really like writing novels too. And for authors and readers, I always recommend they try short stories. Like, as an author, even if you just write novels, it's really good practice to try
Hmm.
short stories, right? It's a different craft, but you can experiment much more, right? You can experiment with genre, with point of view. You can be much more experimental, and it's, a lower risk than doing that for a
That's
novel
fair.
in terms
Yeah.
of time. Also, in terms of time, you can write a short story and complete it in a day or a weekend or a week,
Hmm.
which can give you that kind of like satisfaction as a writer, like, oh, I finished something,
Yeah.
I achieved something. It's also great for publishing, right? You start to get your name out there. That
Hmm.
was how I got my start, was through short stories. I was sort of stuck on my novel, not gaining traction. I switched to short stories to explore some of the characters in my novel.
Hmm.
And then through there starting getting published and meeting publishers and editors, and this was all online, but it's still a community, right? And from there, kind of built up my writing skill and my
Yeah.
writing resume. So I highly recommend it for writers. And then for readers, it's a great way to find new authors, right? Like if you pick up
100%.
a
Yeah.
book, yeah, like Women of the Weird West, and you might find like a few stories in there you love the writing, and then you go and read the author's work.
Yeah.
So I love writing short stories. I always recommend them. I would say right now I'm sort of like I like both equally. The problem is short stories don't like pay as much. I mean,
Mhm.
they do, but the novel is really key for authors who are like trying to build up a career. It is unfortunately hard to have a really long-term author career if you're just doing short stories because
Mhm.
short story collections don't sell as well. There's plenty of exceptions, but if you think of best-selling horror authors or genre authors, you're usually thinking of novelists, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I find it, I mean, I like, from a reader perspective, I like short stories as well as shorter stories.
Mhm.
Because I always find it fascinating when an author is capable of creating a whole world
Mm,
with deep characters in 10 pages, 20 pages.
right.
Like that, I find this so, like, just sometimes it's hard that my mind can't wrap around that
Mhm.
thought of, you just gave me a whole story and I didn't have to read a 700-page tome to get like the detail and the satisfaction. It was just a couple of pages. I find that so fascinating when authors are capable of doing that.
For sure. It is such an awesome art form, like, when you do it right or when you
Yeah.
read one that's done right, it really is like, as you say, you get a whole world, a microcosm,
Yeah.
like, in just a few pages.
Yeah. We have one more anthology to talk about that you talked about a little bit at the beginning, the Dread Coast anthology. You mentioned also that was for so-called authors, and it was a charity anthology, right?
Right, yes.
Yeah.
So, that one, Southern California writers, mostly in San Diego, and that was Invite. We invited authors we knew who were in the community who might like to contribute a story. The story also had to be set in SoCal, so San
Hmm.
Diego, LA area. Um, and our motivation and inspiration for doing it was the wildfires that happened last not this past January, but the January
It
before.
feels still so close, but yes, yeah,
Yeah, so we thought, what can we do to help as authors? And a lot of times you'll see people do charity anthologies,
yeah,
and that is where the authors donate a story, so they're not paid for their story. The editors donate their time, right? And you put together an anthology, and proceeds go to the charity of choice.
yeah.
And actually, Teresa's the one who published it through No Bad Books Press. And we got, wonderful stories from very like new writers to best-selling authors,
Hmm.
and a great range. Like some of them are very dark, some are funny. Like there's just a really good range of horror tales in that. Um, and yeah, it's almost coming up on a year now, so that's that's exciting.
Yeah, that I didn't know it was that long. Time sometimes flies. It is ridiculous.
Mm,
Are you still donating? Like, if someone is interested in that anthology, are you still donating the proceeds? Because I know people are still recovering from that. Like, I know it's
yes.
not in the news anymore, but it's still very much a theme here in Southern California. But
It is a long-term effort for sure. We are still proceeds are still going to that, and then at some point, and I can't remember when, if it was a year or 2 years out, we're going to switch to an animal shelter charity, just
mhm,
the idea that, okay, hopefully those donations have helped the restoration.
yeah,
Hopefully it's not, many, many years of restoration. So we thought, well, how can we continue to make sure the book is benefiting the local community?
yeah. So, where can people find that if they are still interested in?
Yes, that one is available online wherever you buy books, and
Awesome.
it's, yeah, called Dread Coast.
Awesome. I will put the links in the description as well if you guys want to go check it out. And the list of everything, anyway, will be down in the description so you can take a look at that. And then when it comes to selling your books, you say everywhere available, but you also do events, right? Like every now and then I see you popping up for, hey, I'm here for 2 hours. Also, mostly in the Southern California area, right? Like a lot of the book events that are here. That's also a good place for you to advertise your books, essentially.
For sure, it's so nice to meet readers in person, and especially now with, all the toxicity of social media, AI, people everywhere. Like,
We are
it's like,
saying this as we're recording a video for YouTube, but yes.
well, we're not AI. Okay? We're real people. We can prove it. You can see us at events. But yes, connecting with people in person has been so amazing. I mean, it's always great, but I think especially now when community is more important, right? And
Hmm.
people maybe are feeling more isolated or stressed out by world events, that coming together in community events, I feel like is more important than ever. And then seeing people so passionate about reading and books and horror, like that is just warms my warms my heart. Um, and we are very fortunate in the San Diego region. We have a ton of literary events and horror events. So there's like no shortage of it, which is amazing. And we're in close proximity to LA.
Hmm.
LA also has a robust horror writers chapter. So we coordinate with them. Let's see, last month we did LA Times Festival of Books. So we
That was
did
a big one. Yep.
was awesome. And we have like different authors coming to the tables and shifts, which is really fun. Here in San Diego, we have a lot of book events throughout the year. Verbatim does some. Mysterious Galaxy always has amazing author talks, and they often host our launch events.
Yeah.
Art
Amazing bookstores, by the way, if you guys want to go check them out.
so amazing. And also Artifact Books in Encinitas, which is just a
Hmm.
little bit north of San Diego. They also do awesome events, and they're very supportive of authors and the horror genre.
Yeah.
So we're so lucky that we have like an abundance of literary events here. Obviously, we have Comic Con too, which
Yep.
is amazing. WonderCon. Those are events where you will typically find some of us horror writers doing panels or hanging out or selling books.
Yeah.
So it's really great. I'm also traveling for some events like StokerCon, which is the Horror Writer Association annual events, which
Hmm.
happens every year. We actually hosted it in San Diego a few years ago. This year it's in Pittsburgh next month, so that'll be super fun and
That's a bit of a travel.
a little bit, yeah.
So, with your Horror Writers Association, is that like a specific chapter of the bigger, like a US group, or is that like your own group in Southern California?
Yeah, it's actually an international group, and
Oh,
I
wow.
would say it's maybe the oldest and the largest association of its kind, and it's called Horror Writers Association, HWA for short. And it is a fantastic group that promotes horror literature. And actually, anybody can join. You don't have to be an author.
Hmm.
There's different levels of membership. And I really like the model where if you have enough members in a location, they can start a local chapter, which is what I did here in San
Ah, gotcha. So
Diego. Yeah,
you run this.
I run it and I started it
Ah,
10 years ago. We just had a
wow.
10-year anniversary. Yeah, and
Yeah.
been awesome. We have, gosh, probably like 20 to 30 very active members, but it's a bigger group,
Yeah.
maybe like 50 to 60 ish. Of course, it fluctuates. But so each chapter is able to do its own activities, right? Some chapters will do workshops together, writing workshops. They might organize events. That's what our chapter likes to do. We have meetings, and pretty much we're just like a big support group and cheerleaders for each other. Um, Horror writers tend to be very, very nice, which is
Despite the topics they write about.
or because of they get all that angst out in the page.
Fair, fair, yeah. So, what does it do from a support group perspective? Because marketing is always a big topic, right? Like getting your books out. Like, is that then also part of you supporting each other and you help promote each other's books and you help out on each other's events and all that stuff? Is that also part of the whole association?
Yes, for sure. There are ways the association supports new authors,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they have like a newsletter and other ways of getting the word out there. They do profiles, blogs, this is the national
Yeah.
um, chapter, and then this annual event, which is amazing and super fun. From the chapter perspective, I I think of them as like my emotional support authors because we're always attending each other's events and
Yeah.
panels at events, and yeah, supporting each other's books and doing what we can.
That is awesome. That makes life then so much easier too if you have a good group that you can utilize for your own
For sure.
support purposes.
Yes, for sure. And it's just fun, right, to support each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on top of everything, what you're doing, my goodness, we've talked about so many things at this point. You're also teaching classes, right?
Yes, that's right. I started teaching at UC San Diego Extended Studies, a course on speculative fiction. So it covers horror, sci fi, and fantasy.
Yeah.
And that's been super fun. That's a 10-week course online. And I do regular workshops. I'm actually doing one through San Diego Inc. in July. That'll be virtual.
Mm-hmm.
I do workshops at events as well. I'm doing one at Midsummer Scream on how to create a monster.
The
So,
name, sorry, I'm giggling about the name.
right. Yeah. So I enjoy teaching genre fiction, horror, and short stories, and it's really rewarding to see people walk away with hopefully some tips or some writings from the
Yeah.
exercises that they can use. And it's always my goal that people are walking away with tangible things they can use, right? I want to make sure that they feel equipped to move on to the next step.
Yeah. That makes sense. That is amazing that you're sharing what you learned over the years as well with other writers or, want to be writers. Tell us a little bit more about your writer's journey. So you have been writing probably before you moved to Southern California already. So
For
how did you start? Where did this come from? Was it always horror?
sure. Yeah, I like a lot of writers, I think. I started writing from a pretty young age, and I
Hmm.
always liked kind of the make believe stories. So something where something fantastical happens, right? Unicorns, whatever. And in middle school, I got really into writing what we now call fan fiction. Um, so I wrote so many stories about X Files, X Men, and Frankenstein were like my three things. Just like tons of fan fiction, which is really good training,
Yeah.
right? If you're a writer, it's like that's how you start to learn how to play with characters and explore worlds. So I've always loved writing, but in my professional career, I was focused on science. And I worked in a lab after college, a scientific lab, found that I didn't love being in a lab. It's
Yeah.
like very slow. You have to be patient and meticulous. I was more interested in learning about the science and communicating. So I went back to school for journalism, science journalism, which I
Oh,
really love
interesting.
because then it
Yeah.
like combined my love of science with my love of writing.
Yeah.
And I learned to write very journalistically, which was completely different than creative writing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Very different. But
Yeah.
it taught me how to write in a very focused way with brevity, right? So that actually really helped me when I started writing short stories about the same time because I was learning to like get to the point right away and like really be mindful of my words. Um, I had written a few novels, but nothing published, and I was really struggling with this kind of epic sci-fi novel I had always wanted to write, but I didn't know how to outline. I didn't
Mm.
know. I was just really struggling. So I took a break from that and really started writing short stories more regularly and started to see some traction. I was getting published for the first time. This coincided with my move to San Diego. So it was
Hmm.
like a fresh start. I had the career I wanted. I was married. So, like, all my life stuff was like settled. So I felt like I had more brain space to focus on
Yeah.
writing. Whereas before that, I was like pretty chaotic and it was hard. It was hard to write
Yes.
during like 10 years of my life. So anyway, short stories were kind of like my avenue to start to meet a community of writers. At the same time, finding horror writers here in San Diego and starting the chapter. So all that came together and just kind of helped me gain momentum and focus. And then, oddly enough, I share this because I want people who are parents to understand like life's not over when you have a kid. But when I had my first kid, my daughter,
Hmm.
um, something in me clicked at that point, and I was like, "Oh, I need to get serious about writing." And that's when I wrote the Melinda West novel.
Hmm.
And it was like that sense of mortality kind of hit me. And all to say, I only got very serious about novel writing right after my daughter was born, which was just like an interesting mental state. It was like I needed to focus more on book writing
Yeah.
to just like honor myself while at the same time having a family.
Yeah. Do you feel you fulfilled that for yourself at this point with 2
Yeah,
novels?
for sure. I feel like I'm doing the projects I've always wanted to do. I mean, there's always something more, right? Like we're
Sure.
always
Yeah.
striving to the next book deal or like getting your book option for film. Like there's always more, but in terms of where I am, I feel like I have a lot of projects. I have a great community of writers, so I'm pretty happy with that. And balancing that with family has never really been an issue. It's kind of like you don't have to pick one or the other, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's all about juggling. I mean, sometimes, you can't submit a story because you have a family obligation, or sometimes you miss a routine family thing because you have a deadline, right? So
Yeah.
it's all about mindful juggling, which we all do anyway with various aspects of our lives.
Yeah. Very fair. Excuse me. Nah, no. Um, well, that's good to hear though that you had that realization and then acted on it too and worked on it to a point where you said like, "Yep, okay, now I'm good. I got what I wanted out of it." Not that it means the ending, but you're not sitting there with any regrets or anything.
Totally. Well, and it's always a constant negotiation with yourself too. Writing is right. I think all writers of all stages have it, where
Mhm.
you have to honor your writing time. You have to carve it out, and sometimes it's hard, right? Like sometimes I will do anything else because I'm procrastinating. But you find ways to like trick your mind. Like, no, I really want to write. I'll feel good after I write. Like,
Yeah.
even though it's hard. So it's always a constant negotiation too of like time and projects and what to focus on. And everybody has imposter syndrome as well. That's another challenge, right? And I still get that all the time. It's very annoying, but it's always there.
I think every creative person has that.
Mm.
It's I think part of being a creative, right?
For sure. Yeah. It's like 1 second you think this is the worst thing anybody's written to going to saying, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. I need the
Yeah.
publisher. Like it's just this
Where's my price? Exactly. Thank you.
all the time.
And then throughout your writing journey, you are more or less indie published, right? Or small press
That's
published.
right.
Was that from the beginning a choice that you made, or was that just something you fell into?
So for Weird West, I actually did pitch the book to agents to try to go to a major publisher.
Mm-hmm.
And I got pretty consistent feedback that agents liked the book, but didn't think they could sell it.
Mm.
Right. And
The
I think that
market.
is
Mm-hmm.
because it's Weird West. It
Yeah.
is such a specific like subgenre that is maybe not commercially the most viable, supposedly, which is fine. So I got that feedback, and at least I was hearing that they liked the
Yeah.
story and they thought it was good. So then I started thinking about small press, and I was super fortunate that Bridget's Gay Press saw one of my tweets back when Twitter was Twitter about my book. I was doing
Mm-hmm.
like one of those pitching contests, and they saw the tweet and they reached out to me, and they read the book and they loved it. And they have been an amazing partner. They published book two. They're publishing Women of the Weird West anthology. They have been a wonderful partner. So I was very fortunate that we connected in that way.
Awesome. That is fantastic. So, in as part of then of your indie journey, since you've been doing this for many many years now, what are some tips for indie authors that you have?
Yeah, I would say for any author, your community is super important, right? So finding those people you can connect with virtually and in person, and everybody's situation is different, but it's really hard to progress in your author career without a community, right? And it can take a while to find, because when I was writing sci-fi, I was finding author groups, but they were more kind of literary and they didn't really
Mm-hmm.
understand my genre fiction.
Very different
So
worlds.
very
Yes. Mm-hmm.
different. I always felt like an outsider, never
Mm-hmm.
connected until the horror group.
Yeah.
So all that took like decades until I found them. So all to say, keep looking for your community of authors. They're going to help you, right? And then remember, it is truly a marathon, and you are going to get a bajillion rejections, and that's fine. That is just part of the process. I like to say that rejections are a sign of effort, not quality, right? Like, I have more rejections than I can count for all my stories, like so many rejections. And it's annoying, but it's fine. You just submit it again as soon as you get that rejection. So those are kind of tips for authors in general. For indie authors, I will say the community is pretty tight knit. So, be considerate, which you should do anyway. But like, publishers talk, agents as they should, right? So you always want to be kind and thoughtful, and understand that in the indie publishing world, a lot of these publishers have day jobs. They're juggling so much. So if you don't hear back right away, don't take it personally. Give them grace and patience. Actually, pretty much all the ones I know, they have like day jobs and other things going on, and sometimes they're one person running the press, two people,
Mm-hmm.
10 people. Like, it's a variety. I will say small press is wonderful though, because you as an author, you get more input typically, like a
Yeah.
new cover or edits. Indie presses tend to be more open to horror and to experimental work. The other thing I'll say is make sure to support those indie presses, right? Buy their books, buy their anthologies, promote their stuff on social. But find the ones that you enjoy their work and try to connect with them, especially if you're able to go to conferences, right? Try to go to their panels or their tables. Um, Actually, that was also how I got my collection published. It was through Dragon's Roost Press.
Mm-hmm.
I met the publisher at StokerCon a few years ago and pitched him my book, my collection, and he loved it. And it was wonderful working with him.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Community. Yeah. I love it. It's
Mm.
so important nowadays, as we've talked about before already. Makes absolute sense. All right. One last question for you. What's next? What is the next big thing, next big
Oh,
event? Other than, of course, the Women of the Weird West launch in June 16.
that's right.
What's the next big thing?
Yeah, the next big project will be the game launch. So that is for Monster Gunslingers, the game. That is a kind of supernatural take on Texas Hold'em. So the poker game Texas Hold'em, where each card has an ability where you can attack your opponents. And there's a few other mechanisms in there. And my husband actually designed the game mechanic. He has that like mind of, he's always playing games, and he's always designing games. So he had this like game mechanic, and I thought, hey, why don't we like put my Weird West kind of world on there, stitch
Yeah.
it together, which was fun. We found an artist, and she did all of the character art, and then we found a local publisher here who's helping us with like the distribution and printing and like stuff I don't know how to do, right?
Yeah.
So we're super excited. That should be available in a month or two. We're like very close. So if anyone's interested, Monster Gunslingers, the game, you can go to the website or my website and sign up to get notified. I'm super excited for that coming out. We demoed it in a few cons and to groups, and people seem to really like it, especially if they're poker fans. They enjoy it.
Which makes sense if it is based on a Texas Hold'em mechanic.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, for sure. So that one, and then another game announcement we'll be sharing soon, which I'm excited about. And then for events, StokerCon is like the big horror family reunion almost, where it's like just really fun. A lot of great people go to that. Um, then some other events in between, but I would say, Comic Con in San Diego is always a fun one too.
That is soon, right? That is not too long anymore either.
Oh, right. We should start hearing about panels next month. So,
Oh my goodness. Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, we're nearly at the top of the hour. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention that we didn't talk about yet? I mean, we covered so much, but is there
we
something we
did. I know
forgot?
we covered a lot. No, I think this was great. I mean, my website, kcgrifant.com, I'm on most of the socials. You can find information about my classes there, my releases, the game. If you sign up for the newsletter, we are going to do a discount or promo for people who sign up for the newsletter before the game launches. Yeah, I think that's it for now.
Lots of balls in the air, as they say.
Which is good. I'm a juggler.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see that, especially the art. I always love it when games, like I'm a big Magic the Gathering player. I don't know if
Oh,
you're
nice.
like
My
trading
husband
card game. And I'm always fascinated by the art. So I love to hear that you have an artist that brought the characters to life. So I'm very excited to see that
did.
once
She
it's
was
there.
great, and she had never done like fantasy or Western before, and she was wonderful to work with. She's based in Canada. And it's funny you mentioned Magic the Gathering. My husband was just at the Magic Con in Vegas.
My husband too. Oh my God. We should have
Yeah, they
connected the two.
should- yeah,
Anyway,
next time.
next time. Exactly. He goes every year. So
Oh, nice. Nice.
awesome. Well, I will put all the links that you mentioned, your website and where you can find your book. I will put that down in the description so you can go look it up, sign up for the newsletter if you're interested in the game. Casey, thank you so much for joining me, for spending your valuable time talking with me about your books. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, thank you. This was awesome. It was so nice
Yes.
to chat with you.
And then for you guys, thank you so much for joining. Let me know down in the comments if Weird West is a genre you knew before, and if not, if it's interesting to you now that you've heard about it. Thanks very much for joining. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.
Thank you.